but we're back with a fantastic guest. And before we introduce Michael Alter, we want to congratulate the Atlanta Braves, right, on winning the World Series. But Arnie, you shared an amazing story about how your son is connected to Max Fried. And I think it's such a great Maccabi and Jewish sports hero story that you should share it with everybody.
All right, I'll do that. First of all, it's great to see everyone. We've been off for a few months here doing other things. Donna, I've missed you every other Tuesday night, so we're back again, and hopefully all the way through Israel next summer now with a lot of great guests. But I happened to write this today in my CEO message to the Jewish community in New Orleans, and I gave them the Max Fried story. So the story goes something like this. It was, I guess, 12 years ago at the 09 Maccabi in Israel. Max Fried, who everybody knows was the winning pitcher in the deciding game of the World Series for the Braves this year. He was on the mound for the United States team, sailing along, the star he was. And we get to the last inning of the game. And for whatever reason, he lost his control. And he loaded the bases. And I'm looking over at the U.S. coach, and all of a sudden he's waving for my son to start warming up. And I'm thinking, and my wife is thinking, oh my God, I can't believe they would do this. They're not going to replace Max Fried, with anybody, especially my kid. And lo and behold, Stevie is summoned into the game, bases loaded, 2 outs, a 1-run lead in the gold medal game against Israel. And of course, mom and dad are sitting there nervous as could be. And he induced a ground ball to the shortstop. Shortstop throws to second base for the fourth. And next thing I see, he's in a dog pile, on the field.
Wow.
in the U.S.
That's pretty awesome.
Isn't that great?
That's fantastic.
It's a great story. It's a story he will tell. Probably his dad will tell you more.
Forever.
But it's a story he'll tell his whole life. And now that Max is the star that he is. So we're going to get Max Fried as a guest on the sports show at some point. It'll be fun to reminisce with him.
Was your son available if they needed him? I guess they didn't need him in Atlanta, but he was ready.
He was absolutely ready. Yeah. Better he become a doctor. He's in med school right now.
That's a good Jewish end to that story.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, Donna, back to you to introduce our incredible guest tonight.
Yeah. Hi, Stu Roden. How you doing? Harvey, do you want to help me introduce your brother? What was he like as a brother, Harvey? He's not talking, Michael. This is
good.
So cool.
I've muted him on that one especially.
Donna,
What?
you couldn't ask for a better brother.
Oh, Harvey, you're so sweet. Harvey is the sweetest brother, I have to say. Let me introduce Michael.
That is true.
A really good friend, somebody I did have the pleasure of working with right after he bought the Sky and through, I guess, about 6 seasons. Michael is the president of the Alter Group, which is one of the country's, believe it or not, largest private commercial real estate developers. I suppose that's a whole other show, Michael, what's happening in commercial real estate post-COVID, right? But
yeah,
tonight.
That's not a very fun show. We don't need to have that.
But I will say this, this is, I think, an amazing statistic that this company has developed nearly 100 million square feet of commercial real estate. That's a lot of commercial real estate. He's also, he does a lot of philanthropic work. He's the City Year Chicago president. We both have a history of working with City Year, but a little known fact is Michael's college roommate actually founded City Year.
Roommates, plural.
Both of them, right? And
Two
it's
of them,
based in Boston. We have a really great City Year program here in Jacksonville. And so through that, I got involved as well. But we're here tonight, Michael, because a couple of years ago, maybe 16 now, somewhere along the line, you looked at your city and you said, oh my God, Chicago is one of the great sports cities in this nation. By the way, having lived in Chicago, I would agree with you, but they did not have a WNBA team. And you raised your hand. And I think there's probably some persuasion from another friend of yours who said, this would be a really great idea. And you made the Chicago Sky come to life. Fair enough? So my first question for you, Arnie, I'm going to take this first question right off of that if I could, and I'm sure everyone will have questions. Why? No, so I'll give a little perspective. I started the 9th year. So you started the 9th year of the league, right? Val had your announcement in whatever it was, February of that year, and then you launched in year 9.
Okay. Was that the year you started? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, year 9. And that was your first year.
So I've far outlasted you. I don't know what that says about me, but why? So it was the reason why was somewhat simple, and I guess not. So, I had zero interest in getting involved in sports. I really wasn't even. I played sports. I was a pretty competitive basketball player and football player in high school. And to me, sports, I love playing sports. It had a huge impact on my life and exposed me to people and places that I would never otherwise have had the opportunity to. So I've always had this strong belief in the transformative power of sports. And also, one of the few things that actually brings diverse people together in our society, because we remain extremely segregated and equal, and sports is one of those few things that breaks down some of those barriers. So that was my relationship with sports. As a fan, I was not a big fan, to be honest. I mean, I occasionally would watch, but compared to a lot of my friends, family, who read the sports page every day, watched the news, I didn't do any of that. I always thought that was like a big waste of time, to be honest with you. So all that's to say, I had no interest, never really near thought I'd be involved in sports as a in a professional manner, or an owner by any sense. And certainly a women's team was even more far-fetched, because I didn't even know, there were women's teams. And actually that's kind of part of what led me to it. That when I first found out that there was this thing called the WNBA, I was shocked. I had no idea. I'd never heard about it. And I think it had been around down and said, I think about 7 or 8 years or so. By the time I had heard about it, it was first introduced to me. And I couldn't believe that I hadn't heard about it. I couldn't believe that Chicago didn't have a team. And because Chicago is such an unbelievable sports town, it just seemed really sort of embarrassing and stunning to me that this league had been around for this long, and Chicago wasn't part of it. So I started asking what I thought were very innocent and just purely curious questions about this. Why, how long it's been around? Why is Chicago not part of it? Who is part of it? What's so? And then one thing led to another, and I ended up with a team. So I just felt that I had to do something about the fact that there was this enormous deficit in terms of the Chicago sports scene, and in terms of the importance of what this league stands for, and the women who play in the league, who were really what first turned me on. I just met a few women. I didn't know they were professional basketball players at first, but found them to be incredibly inspiring, sharp, talented, articulate, just all this, and then just was kind of blown away by them. And I found out they play sports, and this is exactly what, as a parent, as a citizen, you think about as great role models, is what sports ought to be about. And so anyway, long story. That's how I ended up with. I decided, someone had to step up and make it happen. No idea what I was doing or what I was getting into. And so we started doing it. I went to some people I knew. I didn't want it to just be myself and my family, but I thought it'd be a bigger statement if we got another 20, 25 people from Chicago, diverse people, which we did, women, people of color, to be part of it, to show that this was sort of a civic undertaking and not just some loony guy who was doing this. And so that's kind of how it happened, and we just kind of learned as we went.
Michael, you've got a great quote that I found that says, "For me, it was like meeting Ernie Banks and Bill Russell in their prime," and that you were so impressed by the players.
I said that?
Huh?
That's a quote of mine?
Yeah, that's
really okay. God, I don't remember.
Wikipedia
It's been a
gave
while
you
ago.
I mean, what was the reality like just in the first days and years? I mean, you were moving into a major sport in our country, and you were one of a few owners of one of those clubs.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it was, I found this amazing woman named Margaret Stender, who I managed to persuade to leave her very substantial corporate job running major division at Quaker to leave that and to run this for me. She's probably the smartest, most talented person I've ever had the pleasure to work with, and she did all the heavy lifting. You know, we were an expansion team, really the first one in the league, starting from scratch. So we had no idea what that means, but you know, we had to come up with everything from a name to a logo to colors to figure out where to play and when to play and how to do it. And we, you know, so everything was learning on the go. And so when we finally, you know, so it took us about a year. You know, we intentionally gave ourselves a year to kind of put it all together and to build a team. And I don't mean the basketball team. That was sort of the last thing we were focused on, but to build an organization and you know, sales team, a marketing team, all the things you need to do and figure out. And so by the time we finally got to the first game, it was, you know, it was very exciting. I mean, it was one of those things, you know, you never, you know, to actually get to there's so much work involved. When you finally get there and it's actually happening, it's a little overwhelming. You know, it's just like, you know, this actually, you know, these are Chicago Sky players wearing uniforms with our logos and our mascot and all these things that we just created out of thin air, and here they are. And so that was pretty cool. Then the reality set in, the reality of being an expansion team, particularly in the WNBA at that time, which was really bad. It was really hard. The rules, which were like a lot of the early things in the WNBA, sort of adopted without thought from the NBA, just kind of, okay, this is it, we'll move it over here, we'll do it here. And it was really tough because the way the rules were set up, that, you know, our team was not very talented, and we were a long way from getting anywhere near talented. And the rules, you know, sort of was designed to take 5, 6, 7 years or so to sort of build. And it was, so we were terrible. I don't know how many games we won, maybe 3 games or something. It was, that was very painful because not only did we lose, but we lost big. And so, you know, at the same time, we got all this excitement, you're trying to build a fan base and and you're just, you know, it's just hard. You go to the games and it's just like blowout after blowout. And so those were some tough years. I actually advocated, and I think, you know, Donna was there then, you know, to change the rules to make it easier for expansion teams, so they didn't have to go through what we went through, which actually ended up, I mean, we did this knowingly, but
did we do
what's
it?
that?
Did we do it?
We did it. Yeah, we did. The biggest thing we did, it was, you know, it was to our detriment, because the biggest thing we did at the time, the expansion teams were given the 6th pick in the draft, which is a non-lottery pick.
Right.
First 4 lottery picks. And so I pushed very hard to say that the next expansion team should at least get a lottery pick.
I remember
it's ridiculous. And because it's just too hard. It's hard to build a team. It's hard to start, you know, to do it, and then to have to be awful for so long is just, that's like cruel. So Atlanta was the next expansion team. They were in the lottery. Not only they're in the lottery, they got the first pick. They picked a great player, Angel McCautry. The first year they're in the playoffs. They like flew past us in the standings. They were much better than we were. It took us another 3 or 4 years to get up to them. So it worked out for them, not for us. But it was, yeah, it's the right thing to do. So those early years, they were tough years. It took us a while to kind of get our, you know, get our feet under us, and a few drafts to get some of the new players. We never, to this day, we've never had a first round pick. We were in the lottery for probably the first 6, 7, maybe more years, but a lot of number 2 picks and some number 3s, some excellent players, but we never had a number 1 pick. Candace Parker, who came as a free agent, was a number 1 pick. So I guess now you can say we have one on a roster, but prior to that, we've never had a number 1 pick on a roster. Some teams have 3 or 4 number 1 picks.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, how different was it for you as a successful owner of a business? I mean, a great business with the Alta Group, versus owning from the business side a sports team where you're kind of dependent in a lot of ways on wins and losses as it affects your business bottom line. How was that difference? It's
totally different. You know, you think, and you hear people talk about, you know, it's a business, run like business, but it's not a sports. I mean, obviously it is a business because there's P&L and revenue and all that, but it's not like a regular business. There's so many more elements of things that you just don't control, that it's really hard to control. And then the competitive aspect, I mean, all businesses are competitive, but it's different when you're in the, you know, at least my experience has been professional sports. I mean, you're dealing, you know, with people in a way that just, you know, we're all managing people in businesses, but it's different when you have a team of athletes, you know, 12, whatever the number is, and there's just different aspects to it that make it very, 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 very different. So that took a while, because I came to it with the, sort of, when I heard other people say it's just like running a business, it's just, but it's not.
It is so not. It's so not. And what's so interesting, you have all these successful business owners, right, Michael, coming to the table thinking, well, I run my business this way, and I should just step right in and be successful. And that's not exactly how it happens.
Yeah,
But
it does not
you
translate.
said something that you glossed over that I just wanted to make sure everyone understood. Up until Michael bought the Chicago Sky, the WNBA consisted of all NBA affiliated owned teams, which means that every team had the benefit of a staff that was already there, the existence of a lot of institutional knowledge of how to run a team. And Michael was the first guy. He stepped up to say, okay, there's a different model here. And that was groundbreaking in and of itself, as I remember it. For the record, Michael, your first year, you were 5-29. And do you remember who your coach was?
Of course, I remember who my coach was.
Well, it was a big deal. That was a big deal.
It was a big deal. Dave Cowens was our coach, the Boston Celtic, great, wonderful person, not a fantastic coach.
Correct.
A head coach, I should say, and not in the WNBA. That was another lesson I learned. I mean, every person I ever talked to, especially then, said, if you ever coach women, it's coaching men, coaching women, it's exactly the same. It's not exactly the same. There's certainly a lot of similarities, but they're not exactly the same. And I think Dave Cowens, realized after the first year it was not what he thought, and he wasn't the right guy for our players and for what they needed. It's very different. It was a bad match. So we parted ways shortly, mutually. Wonderful person though. I don't know where he is these days.
I haven't heard a word about him.
Listen,
you have to understand, it's exciting when you have a league and you have a player with the renown, that's a caliber that Dave Cowens is. But
he was coaching in the NBA a few years before.
It just wasn't the right fit. That happens.
Donna,
the other thing you glossed over really quickly is you talked about putting together a very diversified ownership team. It would be nice if you shared some of the ownership that you brought in, because it was really, again, another unique factor that you brought to the league.
Sure. Yeah. Well, John Rogers, who's still my principal partner, owns Ariel Capital, and he's one of the top Black financiers, and he's on a bunch of big boards like Nike and New York Times and whatnot. And then we had Sue Wellington, who at the time I think had just stepped down from running Gatorade. And a couple other, I don't know how people know these names, but probably Chicagoans who were involved in
well,
business.
you had Destiny's Child. What's
I forgot about that. We did have her too.
Yeah. No, it was, yes, exactly.
And Michael Jordan's ex-wife, Juanita Jordan. Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's dad, and he was a partner, as was his daughter. Michelle Williams.
Right, Michelle Williams. That's right.
Who was one of Destiny's Child. He brought her to the. She was from Rockford, which is Chicago area. I'd forgotten that. Good memory.
Well, no, but because you did a lot of really good things.
Yeah.
You really did, like your thought process about all of that stuff. And then, because we should tell everybody, Harvey is the official maitre d', welcome her, hospitality person at every single Chicago Sky game.
Well, not anymore. He was for a long time. He finally, understandably, said, I want to sit down and be a fan like the rest of us. And but Harvey still makes things happen. He's the operations guy, and he's there every day. I don't know how early he gets there on game day. He's there, and he knows all the refs by sight, by first name. Probably knows all about their families. And he knows all the other team and who they are and who likes what, and takes care of everybody.
Donna, it was I'm semi-retired. I'm only working game days, and I'm working maybe 30 hours a week game days. But just so everyone knows,
you were the best. You were the best. You just brought such great warmth to the game every single time. I mean, it was wonderful.
Dave lived in Newport, Kentucky.
Oh, that's where he lived. Okay.
Arnie?
Michael, let me ask you a question. You know, when I saw for the deciding game that Mayor Lightfoot was there, and I heard her on 6:70 a.m. the next morning. She was so excited about the Sky winning the championship. I want you to talk a little bit about your relationship with her, but I want to bring you back kind of when you bought the team. I mean, you were bringing a major franchise to Chicago. What was the political environment? The mayor, did the aldermen, did they support it? I mean, were they excited?
You know, when we first started, they were, they were lukewarm, I would say. I mean, excited, but not like enthralled. They were not overly invested. Sort of disappointed that it wasn't more. So, they were happy we were doing it, but they didn't, go out of their way to help. They were, they weren't an impediment. But this mayor, however, she was a Sky season ticket holder from day one. So her fandom goes back to the very beginning. So when she became mayor, she's continued to come to most of the games. So the fact that she was at the playoff games was nothing new. She's at almost all our games, and has been even as mayor. She comes with her wife and her daughter, and like I said, they were there from day one. So she is a huge fan, has been always, and that's just been wonderful to have her enthusiasm and her support, and she'll speak about it. The other mayors have been supportive, and they come to games every now and then. But with her, it's very deep and very very authentic, and so that's great. The governor came as well, not to the final game, but the one before. So that was his first Sky game. So we were happy to have him, and the Speaker of the House invited the team. Invited a couple of us. I wasn't able to go, but John went, and a couple of the players and coaches went to Springfield, and they had a big ceremony in the State House for the Sky. So that was wonderful, and made a big to do, and we got lots of proclamations, lots of them. Everyone gave us the county, the city, the state.
And you're just wishing that they were all just season tickets as opposed to.
That's right. Right. And that's what the mayor said. The mayor was great at the rally. She's like, we appreciate all you people on the bandwagon. We're happy to have you.
How do we get you? I know the Bucks just went to DC to the White House. How do we get the Sky to the White House?
Oh, we'll be going. We'll be there. We'll be there in probably in June.
That's exciting.
For sure.
So Michael, I have to just say, after 15 years of owning this team and lots of trepidation, right? Lots of trying to figure it out along the way. It is such a joy to be able to call you the owner of the world champion Chicago Sky. And as you know, I follow your team because I send you notes along the way. No matter what's happening, I want to know what the Sky are doing. Tell me though, in your time, what do you see? What are some of the trends that you've noticed that are different
in the league?
Yeah. I mean, even
Yeah, no, I there's a lot actually. I mean, I really feel, having been at this for a while, I think we've been asking, as you know, Donna, because you were part of those questions, sort of what is it going to take, and when is that sort of we're going to get to that inflection point where we feel like we've kind of really turned the corner, and it does really feel like we're there. And I think there's a number of things that that have come together to kind of make that happen. Some of it is internal stuff. Just we were talking a little earlier before we got on the call about the ownership taking a much more active role. We sort of changed the way the league is run, and we now have a commissioner instead of a president who has more authority than in the days that you were there, and a little more able, just taking the good parts of our partnership with the NBA, but also having more independence and not being under their thumb on the parts that we don't want to be under thumb on. So the ownership have taken a lot more. So internally, we're in a much stronger place. I think certainly there's a moment happening in our society that is attracting a lot of interest in women's sports and equity, and also racial equity. And our players are 80% are women of color, and so there's, from a corporate point of view, there's in media, there's a heightened awareness of the inequities and bias that's been around for so long that we've fought fighting against since I've been in the league, and Donna was there, and it's very real and it's very deep. I think we're finally seeing cracks in that, and we've seen people coming forward who want to really embrace what's going on. I think our players, in their authentic activism and their openness and willingness to use their platforms to speak out about social justice issues have heightened awareness of the league with people who are maybe not even sports fans. The league was very involved in the sort of historical Senate race in Georgia through series of odd events, because one of the owners of the Atlanta team was the current senator, so that was put them in the middle of a very hot race, and they're had a very important role to play in the outcome there. So all that stuff is happening on a societal level. I think the game continues to get better and better all the time, and so that's I think that's helping quite a bit. And the media is paying attention in ways that they just didn't before. So there's a lot of these things that are happening that I think are really getting us to where we've wanted to really be and have tried and worked so hard to get to. So I'm as optimistic as I've ever been on, as far as Chicago goes, obviously winning the championship, our situation, it's crazy how quickly, I never would have guessed that the city would have responded the way it did to our victory and everything. It was unbelievable. In fact, I was, probably shouldn't admit this publicly, but I was, when the mayor said we're having a parade, I was kind of like, I don't know, do we really know? I've seen, the Cubs parades and the Hawks parades, and I'm like, I don't want to do this if, we have this parade and nobody's there and it's going to look terrible and the players will feel bad. So I was very nervous about it. Now, we didn't have 1 million people like the Cubs did, but we had thousands and thousands of people, and we had a big rally with a couple thousand people, all within 24 hours to turn around. It was pretty spectacular. Every network in Chicago carried our rally live for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it was, which I was shocked. So again, I mean, it's just, it's all this stuff kind of happening, I think all, because of the various things I mentioned. So it's very real and it's very exciting.
Yay team, Michael.
Yay.
Yay, it's so good. Go ahead, Arn.
Well,
Listen, remind everybody, if anyone has any questions, Sue, your question was already answered. They're going to the White House, so that's really cool. Hey, Donna, welcome back. We were talking about you the other day, all positive. But if anyone has any questions, by all means, put them in the chat, and we'll make sure that they get answered by the world champion owner of the Chicago Sky, Michael Alter.
You're going to be a broadcaster, Donna. You want to do games?
Huh?
You want to do games?
Can I do a guest? Can I do a guest game for the Sky? I would love to do that.
Of course you could.
I would love that.
You want to do play-by-play, or you want to do the analyst?
Huh?
Play-by-play or analyst?
Ooh, I don't know. Let me think on that. Let me think on that. I watched enough of your games, and I'm such a big Candace fan. I mean, she was one of my number ones. She was my number one.
Oh, that's right, man.
I feel attached to her, so that's kind of cool. All right, Arnie, go ahead.
No, I wanted to ask a couple things, but I'll ask them together. You can answer them together. But I really think the intersection of all of the events with George Floyd and the Senate race in Georgia, as you referenced, and I mean, it just brought such a social action moment to the WNBA. That I think it galvanized a lot of people, got people excited. And, my question would be kind of what is the role of an owner in that? I mean, obviously you're seeing the players engaged, they're active. You yourself have such a history of philanthropy and equity and helping people. So what is the role of an owner? And then one chance of that, we could talk about Candace, because again, sometimes you need that last acquisition, and I think she was the acquisition for you.
Yeah. Well, so as far as obviously I'm just speaking for myself here. We can talk more philosophically about, but that's what attracted me to being involved in the first place. Was again referencing this sense of how sports has this. I think it's very very positive ability to be transformative, but I've always felt that athletes or anybody really who's in the public eye has a somewhat of a responsibility to speak out and be active, and So I always thought, like when remember that controversy with Michael Jordan when he was, said, oh, I forgot something, I'm misquoting him, but something like Republicans buy shoes too or something like that. He was, very determined to be always neutral on any issue, never be drawn in on anything because it may alienate somebody. But to me, people should be who they are, and I'm very supportive of the players in expressing their views. And I, as an organization, we're certainly not partisan at all, and we're not overtly political, but we're very engaged in our community, and we're extremely active in terms of things related to social justice and equity and things like that. And so, to me, that just feels like something, an obligation, responsibility of ours to do that. So, we have the opportunity, and we have the platform, being a professional team. Again, for better or worse, people look up to athletes, they look up to the organization, and so with that privilege, power, comes responsibility to do something with it. So that's how I kind of look at that as an owner. As far as Candace goes, no, as absolutely, she was the missing piece for sure. She makes everybody better, in addition to her own amazing talent, and particularly when it comes to crunch time, big moments, championships. That's when she shines and steps up, and so having her there, and I think she just brought confidence to everybody and helped them get their game to a new level. Seeing, or knowing that she was there and part of it, that she was going to do her role, helped everybody else step up and do their part. So, we knew we were missing something. I mean, so we were very, very focused, very determined to try and get her to Chicago for that very reason. So it worked out exactly as we dreamt it would, hoped it would, and it couldn't have been, a better ending to it.
But Michael, you also had a really good coach too, right? You went through a lot of different coaches, thinking,
You have to remind me about that.
Oh.
Thank you. Yes, we did.
But you're not alone. I mean, everybody does. But this guy seemed to be really spot on. Like, he really connected with your team.
Yeah, well, he's a great, he's a very authentic person. He's very, we just met, we were talking the other day. He leads with his heart. He's a very emotional leader, and I think the players relate to him, and he relates to them, and I think he was able to hit the right buttons and get the players where they needed to be. Obviously, he's a sharp basketball mind too. I think his not to get too technical, but I think the strategy we had in the playoffs, and we changed a lot of our schemes from the defense that we've done during the year, and I think it was brilliant and obviously very successful and took a lot of people by surprise. So yeah, he's terrific, and the player, it's only his third year, so to win a championship in your third year as a head coach is pretty remarkable, and really speaks really highly to his talent.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now, of course, somebody was going to bring it up, and it's Kenny, but he wants you to talk a little bit about the financial aspects of teams and the league.
Financial,
we know that you're going to retire tomorrow, not on your real estate holdings, but because of this huge win now. You've recouped everything you've invested, and you're on your way to.
So as Donna, former President Donna Orender knows well, I'm prohibited from speaking specifically about any particular financial things, so I will speak more broadly about it. But if the question is, are we making money? The answer is no. We're not making money. There are a couple of teams that make money. Most of us don't. That's not terribly different from a lot of professional leagues. A lot of teams, even teams that sell for billions of dollars, don't necessarily make money on a year-to-year cash basis. But but our businesses are definitely growing significantly on the revenue side, and we are moving, well, more than moving, trending very strongly in a positive direction. Getting closer to that break-even mark. We are some, as any business, there's always a balance between trying to invest to grow your businesses versus trying to just make money just to say you're making money. So we're that's not necessarily a goal of ours to make money or not. I mean, obviously we'd rather make a lot of money than lose money, but we're really focused on building value. And I think we've done a great job in that regard. I think our teams are worth dramatically more than they were even 5 years ago, but certainly 10, 15, 20 years ago. So, in that regard, I think we're, making substantial headway.
Hey, Michael, on the Zoom tonight, we're honored to have Marvin Roberts. Marvin is a former NBA player and really the greatest player ever from Utah State University, and was a board member with the NBA retired players. And I have to tell you, one of the things I'm most proud of is that we brought former WNBA players into the membership of the NBRPA, Retired Players Association. What is the role now? You've had 16 years and a lot of great players have played with the team. What's the role of alumni? What can they do to help you? And what kind of impact can they have both on the franchise and the city?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, one thing I would say, just in general, this probably maybe on a more micro level, but and this is something I'm even with our players. One of the things we need everybody to do is to support the league financially. So, I would ask any alumni or anybody, be a season ticket holder. One of the things that's hard when you're used to being a player or a family player, used to everyone gets tickets for free, and it's just kind of it's just sort of an expectation. But it's one of the nicest things to do is to just be a supporter of the team, be a season ticket holder, come to games, bring friends and whatnot, and help, to sort of help build the base. So that's just kind of like at a very grassroots level. I think, and I know you guys done some is helping to, we're very focused with our players on their life after basketball, and we're working on a lot of different ideas and programs. Two things. One is our players still play year round, which we hate. They hate, but they do it because they make money. It enhances their pay significantly by playing overseas. We are moving in a direction through our latest CBA where that increasingly is going to, I don't know if it'll completely stop, but it'll be much less than it has been over the next few years. And as part of that, we're trying to develop some programs and opportunities for players to do things, in sports or outside of sports. So, working, with the teams, with the league, and it's another opportunity for some of the retired players to help our players start to think about their future. I mean, it's hard for an athlete, I think, especially one in their prime, to think past that. And then, your people you work with probably, because they've been through it, don't realize, by the time your time to retire, and then you're not really maybe prepared for anything in particular. And so we're trying to do that with our players, to help get them involved in internships and other things to develop their skills. So they don't all, that there are pathways. And those who want to coach, that's fantastic. They want to stay in sports, wonderful. But sometimes I think some of them do it out of default because they feel like they can't do anything else. They don't know anything else. And so we're trying to expose them to another world, other opportunities. And I think, alumni can certainly be helpful, especially some of those who are outside of sports, to say, look, you can go into this area, you can do this, you don't necessarily have to be in sports if there are other things that are interest to you.
Hey, Michael, Sue Roden was asking, what's the relationship these days with the Bulls? I'm curious too, because I know how hard we tried. Remember that favorite guy of ours was just not interested, but I assume that they have new people now and they're more favorably inclined to be supportive.
Yeah, we have a pretty good relationship with them, and we have no formal legal. I mean, we're totally separate teams, so there's no business relationship or partnership or anything like that. But we get along very well. I think Michael Reinsdorf, who runs the team now, is a very good friend of mine and very supportive, just personally of this guy. Organizationally, we work a lot together. And the great thing, I'll tell you, and really is the NBA players on the Bulls and really all the teams are huge fans of the WNBA. So they're kind of leading. I mean, they're coming to our games, and so they're always asking. We always work with each other's organizations for tickets and stuff. I mean, to come to games. So so they always want to come, and so I think that the organization from the Bulls sees their interest in this guy, and so that makes them more interested. They invited the team to the Bulls opener, which is right after, maybe it wasn't the opener, but one of the Bulls games right after our championship, and they did a really wonderful ceremony recognition of the team and the championship at the Bulls game. So that was really great. And so there's a lot of that kind of support and promotion and between the two, much more so than when there ever was.
Yeah, which is really good because
it's nice.
Getting the community behind it is really terrific. Yeah. Eugene wants to know, I guess, I don't remember this, Eugene, but I guess he does. The past year, the players for the Sky pledged to donate $10 a point scored.
They did that when they were in their bubble year.
Okay, the bubble year. Was that their idea? That
was their idea. That was their, remember that season was, sort of the players sort of formally came up, wanted to dedicate it to social justice. So some, each team came up with different ideas of what that meant to them. And so one of the initiatives from our players was to raise money to give away to organizations that they funded themselves, that they identified themselves. So it was totally their initiative. I mean, we, owners, we matched it, and some of the sponsors did as well, but it was really completely their initiative to do it. It was their idea where the money would go, and completely on their own.
So we should definitely ask you, with all this positive momentum, the number's been stuck at 12 for teams for a long time. Mm-hmm. What about expansion, Michael? There's so many cities.
I think it's definitely going to happen. No, we're just like I said, there's a lot of things, really positive, great things happening in the league, and that we're working on. Expansion is one of them. Yes, we do have a number of cities who have reached out, some of whom have already announced they're going to have a team to start the blue.
Philadelphia's out there. Oakland's out there.
Yeah. So that's great. I think we're going through this process. Like I said earlier, we're working on this evaluate. We want to have a really credible, validated sense of what the values are. So when we're developing metrics that we use to evaluate the cities where we want to be. So it's not just sort of willy-nilly, who wants a team. Okay, you get a team. It's more, okay, you want a team. Here's what you need to demonstrate to us, before we're going to do that, and it's going to cost you X amount of money, because here's the value, and here's how we can substantiate that value is very legitimate. And so we're creating that process now, and I think it's not gonna be next year, but it'll be sooner rather than later.
I mean, listen, I think that's another tremendous step in the growth of the league, right? It's also all about asset value, as Michael shared with us. I think I don't know where the NBA teams are now, but baseball for sure, hockey, at least 50% of the teams don't cash flow. And that's for a variety of reasons. And so the expectation of these women's teams that they should be cash flowing, if not, they're not worthy, is a hardship and a brand impact that is not appreciated. However, asset value is not grown, but it's on the cusp of growing. And when that happens, then you'll begin to be into the next phase.
You're absolutely right. The one thing I just kind of clarify, it's not that the assets haven't grown, it's just that there hasn't been any independent verification of that yet, but we're getting there. That's going to happen soon.
Absolutely. Oh, I like that. Okay. Jordan Mendelson, welcome. Nice to see you. Glad you're joining us tonight. I tell you, Michael, it's such a celebration, as everyone can tell here. It's a very personal celebration, because I've been through a lot of this with Michael through the years, and just to see him smile, Harvey, to see your brother smile is such a huge thing, because he has endured a lot. And I wrote a little love note about that on this thing. But tonight we're also celebrating another women's basketball player, Michael. We have a little bit of a surprise. There is a woman who is part of the Maccabi family. Arnie, you can join me in this. She is a Hall of Fame player from Holy Cross. And you'd say, oh, okay. How does a Jewish girl
Perfect spot for a nice Jewish girl.
Exactly. How does a Jewish girl end up in Holy Cross? Set all their records,
Really?
right? Make everything happen there, which she did. Of course, her and I always debate on who was the better player. But Sherry
You or
Levin
her?
has joined us because she is about to, this Sunday, be honored in a very, very unique way. At Holy Cross, her former school, they are naming the women's basketball lounge the Levin Lounge.
Fantastic.
In addition to that, hey Sherry, You're on, right?
Yeah, I
By the
am.
way, everybody should know that Sherry actually worked for Maccabi USA in her youth. She's also the coach of 2 gold medal winning Open USA women's basketball teams.
Wow.
She's currently the head basketball coach at
Worcester Academy.
Worcester Academy, and she has won 2 state championships in the last 2 seasons. Aaliyah Boston was one of her players, who's probably one of the top 5 players in the nation today, playing for Dawn at University of South Carolina. This woman has an incredible pedigree. But Sherry, why don't you share with us a little bit of the story about what's going to happen on Sunday?
Thank you. I jumped on, and I apologize for being late. And Donna's such a thrill. And Michael, thanks for joining us. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces here, which is so amazing. So it's a little overwhelming to talk about, in the sense that it's been in the works for about 3 years. COVID hit. They've had a new AD. They've had a new coach, and then they finally called me this summer, and they said, we're going to make it happen. The first thing they were saying, that in normal situations like this, they have a priest that blesses the space. And would I have somebody that I know and would like? And I said, I would love Father Markey, who is a gentleman that was the dean of students when I was there. And we're very close friends throughout the years. So I said, yes, I would love Father Markey. And they said, well, we'll see if we can get him. And then they paused and they said, would you like to have your rabbi there? And I said, wow, you know what? That would mean like the world to me. I have a family rabbi that's been at all of our life events. I would love that. And there was another pause. And they said, would you like us to put a mezuzah on the door?
Wow.
And at that point, I got a little verklempt, a little emotional. I remember when, I was telling my daughter and who I think is on, and Donna, the story, I was just like, I never thought of that, because I was someone who was in that community, and I loved my years there, and I loved the community and what they stand for. But I also was very proud of being Jewish, and I was always welcome and respected. So the fact that they have got to this, the bottom of mezuzah, they're bringing my rabbi, they went through the scenarios, like how do we hang it? Where do we do? And it's going to happen, and it will be there, if anything, to a lot of kids will be coming in and out of that locker room wondering, what is that? And it will be a conversation starter. So Togo Palazzi, who was my coach, Boston Celtic great. He was the reason really why I chose Holy Cross, and he will be there, which is really, really special. So I thank you all. I've received a lot of well wishes, and it's just it's a very, very overwhelming and special thing. So
Congratulations, that's fantastic.
And Michael, and it's funny, Levin's dedication ceremony will take place at the Hart Center on November 19th. I guess that is
Friday, yeah.
At 6:00. Hi, Marcia. But Michael, you started this conversation by saying that you believe sports can really be an impactor of social change. And here we are, right? Somebody who's played this game at a college she loved, and is creating social change as well, right? Sherry, I'm glad you joined us. I agree, Marshall, it's so well deserved. I have to go back to Michael for a couple of concluding questions. If anyone wants to ask Sherry or congratulate her, please put it in the chat. She's so well deserving.
Thank you.
But
Michael, I just want to say, Michael, one day I think Aaliyah Boston could be a #1 pick. So if you get that draft pick right now, I told her before she graduated.
Well, that means we won't be able to get her. But
well, that's true. That's true. But I did tell her when I coached her, I said, Aaliyah, I said, when you're the #1 draft pick for the WNBA, will you just bring me a ticket so I can sit at your table? So, yes.
She will. That's exciting. No, that's great. No, she's a great player. I've been watching her.
Yeah, she is.
She's a talent.
Right. Probably won't get her.
She could very well be a #1 pick.
Yeah.
And she could be yours, Michael, unless of course you repeat. So tell us what your thoughts are. What do you need to do to be a repeat champion in Chicago?
A couple things. First, we need to re-sign all our free agents. We need to stay healthy.
Wait. Who are your free? Who are
We got a lot of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Kalia Copper, Courtney Vandersloot,
okay.
Allie Quigley,
Oh.
Diamond DeShields, restricted free agent. Who else is a free agent? Stephanie Dolson's a free agent. So we got a lot. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do. The new CBA has really changed things. So things are a little more complicated than they used to be, and more interesting, which I think is good for the fans and stuff. So we'll see how it all goes. But so we got to re-sign them, and we got to stay healthy. And there's a lot of luck involved in the healthy thing. And then then we'll see. Then I think we'll be in a good position to compete if we get everyone back and we can stay healthy. So that's our big task for the next 3-4 months.
That is a bad. Candace is not a free agent, right?
She has 1 more year under contract.
So she can be an influence in trying to keep those players together, I would assume.
Definitely.
Say, give the old lady 1 more year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Arnie?
Yeah.
Well, this has been a delightful evening. Michael, I just want to tell you, when I reached out to you probably 10 years ago, you were such a nice person. I remember the calls that we had about the NBRPA and what we could do with the sky, and you were just such a gracious person, and you demonstrated it tonight again. I hope that it'll be in the season, but I hope maybe you can join us next summer in Israel for the Maccabi.
Oh, that's a great idea, Arnie.
Donna is leading some great basketball efforts in Israel, and Sherry Levin. I don't know if I can't see if Sherry's still on, but Sherry and I are doing an ambassadors program where we're going to do a series of clinics for different youth around the country. So if your schedule allows, we'd love for you to join us. It'd be a special time. But
well, thank you for being with us. It is a tough time for me, but we'll see when it is.
Well, you know what? Wait. You know what, Michael?
Yes.
I think we have it in here. I think we have how the NFL goes to London every year.
Yeah.
The WNBA go to Israel.
Well, that is part of the things we're working on, to do international games, so we can talk about that.
That might be it. It would be wonderful, right?
Yeah, I'm talking not this summer, but
probably not this summer.
Not this summer, but that's on the list.
That's a great idea. Well, Michael, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I'm going to say it one more time. Everybody, let's thank Michael Alter, the owner of the world champion Chicago Sky. We could not.
Thank you for having me, Donna and Arnie. I appreciate it. It's always great to see you guys.
That has a nice ring to it, Michael. And
yeah, I like it.
Donna, we are not done because we're coming back in 2 weeks.
We are, and I'm so happy because we're going to have Jeff Shulman. He was a Maccabi USA hockey player, but we're going to do a piece we're going to have a conversation with college athletic directors. Right. And I have to say, college sports have changed dramatically. This NIL thing is so very interesting. The impact of COVID with players having their 5th year, some 6 years. So joining Jeff Shulman will be John Cohn, who is the athletic director at Mississippi State, actually, and Jeff's at the University of Vermont. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a great show. Who would believe? I'm in New Orleans. Who would believe up the road at Starkville we have a Jewish athletic director? But we do. So it'll be fun to meet him next week. And Jeff, a lot of people with Maccabi know Jeff Shulman. He's a great friend and supporter. So, Donna, it's always fun to join you. You're the best. And
Arnie,
thank you to all of the Maccabi staff, Mackenzie and Dan and Marshall and everybody that helps us do these shows. And, it's our hope that we can continue to do these. We'll probably take a little bit of break during December, but we'll come back after the first of the year and lead us right up to Maccabi in July. So it'll be a fun 6 months ahead of us.